But you need to understand, I want to bring you to understand the French scenario by making you understand what happened in the last Zimbabwean elections. So, what happened in the last Zimbabwean elections is the opposition did not really campaign that much. They campaigned here and there, but they had no real strategy. In fact, they used something that was called strategic ambiguity. That's what they actually called their strategy. We're not going to tell you what's happening, and you're going to keep guessing, and then we're just going to surprise you at the end. It became clear what the strategic ambiguity strategy was. The Americans had a team in Turkey, and they had a team in Kenya. And these guys were utilizing computers to hack into our central election system of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. So what happens in Zimbabwe is that when an election happens, we've got about 12,300 and something polling stations. At those polling stations, you have observers, you've got the media, you've got agents of the political parties, all of them. They sit in, and early in the morning, before we even start having the polls running, we have an inspection of the poll. We inspect the polling station, the ballot box comes in, we open the ballot box, we look in, make sure that it has not filled with anything. We look at the pens, we look at the ink, we look at the ballot paper. When all these parties, observers, party agents are happy, media, and the election officials. And remember, those election officials you see there, not all of them are ZANU-PF supporters. Many of them are opposition members. The police in there, many of them are opposition members. Everybody agrees that we're happy. The ballot starts. The observers are taking notes. The agents are taking notes. At any point in that election, when you're not happy with what you're seeing, you ask for the election to stop or you start complaining. When the election is finished, there is a consensus. Was the election free, fair? Are you happy with what you saw? These guys say yes. Then they take the ballots, empty them out, count them at the ballot station. Immediately once the counting is done, we have to accept these are spoiled ballots. That's a ballot for this party. That's a ballot for this party. When there's consensus that we've counted correctly, they then take a form that's called a V11, and then they put in the numbers. And then the signatures of all the party agents who are there go in there, and that paper is taken and put outside the polling station for the public to take pictures.
It's similar to our process, where all the party representatives have to.
Now, those V11s are then put into a ballot box and shipped over to the central counting station. Those V11s are then entered into a computer system so that at the end of the day, a computer can tally these numbers for them to be announced after the period where announcements are supposed to be done. The Americans had come up with a smart idea. The hackers who were in Turkey and the hackers that were in Kenya and some hackers that were in Zimbabwe were supposed to hack into the system, that when the V11s are being entered into the system, they're shifting and changing the numbers. Once that's done, on the day of announcing the results, the people at ZEC won't have time to get a tally, a physical tally of all the V11s to then give them a number. They have to announce what's on the computer. And once they had announced what's on the computer, based on the media allegations that are already being made, oh, ZANU-PF is cheating, ZANU-PF is rigging, ZANU-PF is doing this, the number that's announced there would be the number that's accepted, so that even when a physical tally is made of the V11s, and ZANU-PF actually realizes that the result could have been different, when they try to go to the media and give this information, no one would listen to it. So the Russians and the Chinese have a vested interest in Zimbabwe. China has built the biggest steel plant in Africa in Zimbabwe. Russia has got very big concessions for chrome and lithium and platinum group metals.
Did China build this for Zimbabwe for themselves?
It's a joint venture between the Zimbabwean government and the Chinese government. Okay. So this steel that's going to be coming from this plant is going to drive construction and industry in Africa for China. So they're not going to export it back to China. The steel is actually going to be used here on the African continent. So they gave information through our central organizations, had this information that there's going to be a hacking job that's going to be done. So they closed the American hackers out of the system without the American hackers realizing that they had been caught out. And what was supposed to happen is while the hackers were doing their job, there were also people internally who were supposed to be on social media giving results
in real time
from the digital, not the physical.
Yeah.
But ZANU-PF fortunately was ahead of the curve. And that's how we were able to have the results that we got, because the Americans were rigging. And that's why Nelson Chamisa was so sure that he was going to win the elections. And that's also why they had put the American military in Zambia, so that once the results are announced from the digital, if ZANU-PF then contested with the physical count of the V11s, that army was ready to come in to force the Zimbabwean army to accept Nelson Chamisa, or for the ZANU-PF government to be removed forcefully. So by the time we began to announce this information and give information about, I actually wrote an article about this rigging process and this hacking system that had been set up, and how the hackers eventually be caught in Harare and Kenya, and then the ones that were in Turkey ended up being able to get away because they didn't get information they were not caught in time. The Americans and the Zambians got upset, hence they got the protests to start happening to put attention on me. But in reality, what they were pissed off is this expose of what it is that they've been doing behind the scenes.
Do you understand why you sound like a ZANU-PF defender?
Absolutely, I do.
And you don't mind?
But now, I want to give you the scenario that links with West Africa. So let's say Chamisa had succeeded, because this is how Hichilema of Zambia got into power. They rigged him into power and defeated Edgar Lungu. But right now, he's struggling with his own people that want him gone. That is why now he's become draconian. He's arresting people, putting them in jail. And he actually warned coup plotters in Zambia who might want to plot a coup. And this was in the BBC. If Chamisa had gotten into power, in a country where his party does not have over 35% of the vote, what do you think the army would do? What do you think the people of Zimbabwe would do? If the Americans forced our government to accept him, he would probably be able to run the country for 1 week, 2 months, 3 months. But he's got a whole bureaucracy of civil servants who didn't support him under him, or who don't like the fact that he was forced on the country. How will he govern the country when these people can sabotage him? Eventually, you would see a coup happening in Zimbabwe from the very same army or the police, because the Americans could never come and take away the whole entire bureaucracy of ZANU-PF that had been put in Zimbabwe to make sure that they've got one for Chamisa.
But this sounds like jail, because I look at the ANC as an example, and if ever elections were free and fair and the ANC was overthrown, wouldn't we be imprisoned by the same bureaucracy? Where there are so many ANC people that are sitting at so many places that, whether it's a DA or EFF government, they can't actually do anything. So then you're almost asking us, just accept what is, because whoever comes in is going to struggle.
Well, part and parcel of why you see the municipalities, DA has gone into municipalities, is failing dismally.
Yeah.
It's because of what you're talking about.
It might be sabotage from the ANC.
But.
Might be.
But there's a very big difference when you talk white people and black people. White people have capacity. White people have international solidarity. So the DA has not shown you its hand in its municipalities, because it deliberately wants to wait for it to get national power before it shows you how it deals with this sabotage. The DA and its white solidarity with its white friends all across the world can replace the entire system overnight with white solidarity. They can get technocrats and people from all across the world to come and sit in a government and then start training them on how they're going to run the system like they used to run the apartheid system. And that's what I believe they're going to do.